Hi, and welcome to this week's The Mortgage Broker Broadcast. I'm your host, Craig Skelton. I'm a mortgage business owner, mentor, and coach, and I'm here to help self-employed mortgage brokers and business owners build the business that they want. This is the podcast that's made for brokers at every single level, whether you're just starting out in the industry, you're running your own firm, or you're looking to grow and scale your existing business. And today's episode, I wanted to get Jonathan Needham back onto the podcast. Jonathan was on the podcast been a few times recently. Back in May was the most recent one, talking about the Broker Foundry and the Foundations to Freedom webinar that Jonathan and I did back in beginning of July. So what I wanted to do was get him back onto the podcast, talk a little bit about the webinar, talk about the Broker Foundry, where currently the Broker Foundry's at, but more importantly, what does the future look like for the Broker Foundry? So let's just get Jonathan onto the podcast. So welcome back onto the podcast, Jonathan. How are you?
I'm very well, Craig. Thank you very much. Recently back from my holiday.
Nice. I thought I could see a bit of the bronzed look on your chops.
Yeah, bit of a tan. Had a lovely couple of weeks over on Rhodes in Greece.
Nice.
And I love it there. I really do. And it looks like I've brought the weather back with me.
As they say, it certainly is. You have brought the weather back with you.
Everywhere you go, you oh, some that. Can't remember.
Crowded House.
Generation,
Crowded House. Yeah, that is my generation.
That's like this place. Yeah. That's like this is sometimes this place. But as we've just been discussing, looks like I've managed to get sign off for an office in my garden.
Nice.
So maybe the next time you have me on, I'll be live from there. Who knows? Rather than my kitchen.
I thought you were just going to say I'll be with a trowel in my hand and a bit of and the cement mixer going on in the background.
No. Mariella wouldn't let me anywhere near the sort of the creation of anything really. So absolutely hopeless when it comes to DIY. I can just about hang a picture, but yeah. So yeah, back at it after a break. Nicely refreshed.
Good.
And thanks ever so much for having me on again.
No, I appreciate you coming back on, mate. And it's been I just thought it was good timing, given that we did sort of I just wanted to get a talk about sort of obviously the webinar a little bit, just sort of see what's going on generally in terms of the mortgage broker space, in terms of what you're finding, but more importantly, talk about the Broker Foundry, talk about the webinar, talk about the feedback we had, what's sort of going on, what the future looks like as well with it, because I think and so like and I cannot believe it was May you came on the podcast. The webinar was beginning of July, which this podcast is, we're recording pretty late. We are recording this pretty at short notice, so we've got not short notice, that's not the right word, but we are, so we're sort of getting towards the end of August. 20th of August this comes out, so I can't believe it's sort of, what's that, 6 weeks ago since the webinar. So
neither can I really, and I think that's probably a reflection of the fast-paced nature of our worlds. Not that I don't think either of us would complain about that. I always see it, I'm always grateful for having lots of things to keep me occupied and lots of people to speak to. And I think, going back to your point, as a consequence of us doing the Broker Foundry, which I do still think was incredibly brave of us, to do it live. For 2 hours, I think we should pat each other on the back for doing that, really. But whilst it was time well spent,
are you patting yourself on the back? I thought you were patting yourself on the back.
I am, yeah. Whilst it was time well spent, and I know you did as well, following conversations we've had, there's been more activity since. Not necessarily just people tuning back in and listening, but the separate conversations that you and I have had since. So I think as an as an event, webinar, podcast, whatever you want to label it as an event, it was a success. And you and I spoke prior, and our motivation was, well, look, if at the end of the day it helps one person, then that's been, a job well done. I think we've
Absolutely.
both got enough evidence that would suggest it has, without question, helped more than one person. And I know one of the things we're going to talk about today is the potential continuation of us doing it. And I think we should. I genuinely think we should. Don't you?
Yeah, definitely, without a shadow of a doubt. And I think the thing, what like you said, that the feedback we had fairly quickly after, I'll take the bravery, mate, because like you say, it was quite a unique. Well, I'll come to uniqueness in a second because I like just made a note there to talk about unique. But I think it was a unique setup in terms of somebody like you and I sat down for 2 hours talking about it. Was it unscripted? Absolutely. I think anybody that's was on the night or actually seen it since will sort of see that it was totally
Yeah. I
unscripted.
don't think I don't think we could do anything scripted, mate, to be honest with
No,
you.
definitely not. I think you're right with that. But I think the thing with it is that like after that, it was sort of yes, I was mindful of which I know that you weren't, so a bit of feedback there. The one eye on the clock in terms of the timings and stuff like that to
Yeah,
make sure that we covered things. Quite a bit of feedback was we could tell that it was a little bit rushed to the end, and you felt as though you got more to give, which we had, and which
yeah,
well we
yeah,
always have, but we felt I've certainly felt that. But I think it was certainly it's clearly seeing the appetite for I think there's just so many changes in our industry that's going on. You've got to look at CMAP and the changes with the regulation with regards to the qualification and what that looks like. You've got the introduction of AI into the industry and looking at different things and a lot of work with the FCA and how that's looking. There is so the movement right now as a mortgage broker, if you've been
yeah,
doing this for quite some time, there are quite a bit of changes going on. If you're running a
yeah.
business, growing a business, owning a business, scaling it, whatever that looks like, there's a lot of change going on.
Mm,
If you're a sole trader, a one-man band doing it and perfectly comfortable in that world, there is still change going on with how we've got to work within the industry. Don't get me wrong, like I know this podcast is not about AI. I've done enough on that and already. But I think the way that AI is changing the world anyway, as brokers, there's a lot of questions going to be starting to ask. And I think in terms of you and I, with regards to our unique approach, shall we say, to how we communicate with each other,
yeah, yeah,
uniqueness, how we communicate with people that we work with, people,
yeah,
the uniqueness that we do communicate as business owners as well
yeah,
is very unique. And I think that sort of that whole thing with the broker foundry and who's on the broker side and who's working for the
yeah,
broker and all the things we talked about on the webinar about those kind of things where it's not opinions that are sort of that are like a loaded kind of thing and all those kind of things
yeah,
of and it is just two guys who have been in the industry for quite some time. We're still very forward thinking, we're still very much embracing the change in the world and the changes that we do. But I think that certain uniqueness where the like for you and that's the feedback that I got personally, was that it was just good to listen to somebody who has the experience, has the knowledge, but
yeah.
doesn't doesn't sort of like put loadedness in terms of telling people
Mm,
what to do. But then also as well, it is just you and I having a chat
mm.
about the mortgage industry.
I think it comes back to what motivated us doing it, and and I think again that sort of motivation is what drives any conversation that a broker would have with whoever it might be, let's say, somebody currently in an employed role looking at transitioning to becoming a self-employed broker, depending on who they're having the conversation with, will determine what that conversation looks and sounds like, and that more often than not is driven by that individual's motivation, i.e., are they a recruiter within a network, so therefore their motivation will be to get a bum on a seat. Whereas going right back, even before we came up with the concept of the Broker Foundry, going right back, our motivation was simply to try and help people. And I know we sort of referenced that a couple of times on the night. And that will always be our motivation. Now, as a consequence of that, if that then leads to further opportunities of working with people who engage with us, well, that's great. But if it doesn't, then that's no hardship, because the reason we're doing this is because we just want to almost lift the curtain, um, expose the truth a little bit, defrost the status quo, whatever saying you want to use, and try and simplify what has and always probably will be a bit of a complex area for people to try and get their head around. And I think you're right, the landscape of the industry is changing. Market shifts, pressures on brokers, they're being pulled in all different directions. I think the rise of tech should be embraced, really, especially if it's going to make our roles more efficient. But then it's how's that going to fit in? There seems to be an absolute flood of different tools coming into the market. I get inundated mainly through LinkedIn from people wanting half an hour of my time to profile the latest piece of tech that's going to revolutionise their world. So I can imagine that if you're in a different position to us, if you're right at the start of your journey, it must be more daunting than ever, really.
Mm.
And as we've said, the role of the foundry, the broker foundry, was to just provide some very straightforward, very, very honest uh, advice, opinions, feedback, whatever you might want to call it, that isn't motivated by anything other than we just want to try and help. So yeah, I think the feedback that we've had, I think it's something we should probably do again. I'm not entirely sure whether we do it for 2 hours. In all honesty, I think we should definitely get me a big stopwatch, uh, or you just
Big clock on your
interject
new
and
office
say,
wall, mate. That's what
"Yeah,
you're gonna have. A
that's
big
it,"
clock on you.
or you just cut me off. Um, but yeah, there is an appetite out there without any question from people who, and it does surprise me really that want to listen to a couple of lads from South Yorkshire. Um, so, I mean,
Yeah.
going back to your point regarding the timings, and I do accept that there was an opportunity for us to provide more than we gave, but appreciating that probably there were more people that tuned in to the recording afterwards. Uh, do we just pre-record it live rather than doing a live event?
To be honest with you, it's a real good point, because I just made a note there in terms of, I was just thinking, like, to be fair, mate, I was thinking exactly the same thing, because I was thinking that, because when we talked today about the idea is to support people, is to give them that help, there is no sort of loaded opinions that we're giving. It is just around that. There's no sales pitch with it. Obviously,
No.
everyone knows that there's different avenues and different things that we can help people become brokers or set the
Yeah,
business
of
up and all
course there
those
is.
kind of things. Is like there is that. So what I was like to them, I just wrote down there just when you were sort of talking is that was it because we did like the you had to email events at thebrokerfoundry.com to get your ticket, to get the
Yeah.
link, to get that what and did people feel actually, oh well, I'm going to get inundated from email campaigns and email marketing. I have to unsubscribe and they're going to be pitching me something and going to be selling something. Do we then just like say, I'm glad you said that because that's exactly where my thought was going. Do we take that lid off it really and just go, do you know what? Let's just record it
Yeah.
and put it out there for everybody. There's no, you've got to email this or you've got that. And we
No.
set up the Broker Foundry where one place where people can get all the recordings, get
Yeah.
it, get that there. And it is just then out there readily available for
Yeah.
everybody who's looking for help.
I, yeah. I think that's a decent shout, and I think going back when we first started talking about doing an event, if you remember, we were talking about doing it in person. You know, hiring a venue somewhere central, one evening and getting, and then that kind of developed into, well, you know, how would people turn up in person and remain anonymous, and so yeah, and I suppose the fact that we did it as a live webinar, there was an opportunity for it to look and feel a little bit different. You know, it was unique, and I'm glad we did it. Genuinely, I'm glad we did it. But you know, for every person that tuned in on the evening, there was another person saying, "Ah, well, I can't make Tuesday at 6 or whatever day it was on."
Yeah.
And yeah, it did probably feel a little bit like Fort Knox trying to get into it. So no, I think yeah, maybe we're onto something there. Maybe the next session that we do, you and I can just, well, we can record it whenever we need to, as we're doing with this, and then just, you know, make sure everybody's aware as to when it's going to go out.
Yeah.
The other benefit, of course, is if that's something that we're seriously going to commit to doing, I don't know, say once a month or however frequently we do it, you know, we can invite suggestions in as to different topics. We could even have guests,
Yeah.
you know, from lenders or insurance providers or whoever it might be, some of these tech firms. So no, I think there's definite mileage there, mate. Seriously, and you know, not let's not forget it. It will undoubtedly take the pressure off us a little bit. You know, especially given my need for visiting the toilet on a fairly regular basis, as I did, and you know, left you holding the fort. So
That's not my motivation, mate. To be fair, don't let me just get that clear. Your toilet activities is not my.
yeah,
Let the cat out of the bag there. If people haven't listened to it or watched that the webinar, but
yeah,
I think, and I think as well, what one thing that can frustrate me from time to time is that I think monthly. I think if we did something that's monthly, it then obviously we can then make sure we're in time in terms of like the stuff. I think an hour is long enough in terms of for people to listen to you and I. And if they want it in half an hour, then they can double the speed, or 45 minutes, then they can do
yeah,
it on time and a half, or whatever the case may
yeah,
be. But I think as well, I think we sort of say that, like I said, going back to what frustrates me is that I have certain podcasts that I listen to, and I'm more stricter with the ones that come out at the same time every
yeah,
week, every month, whenever that is. And I'm I get notifications, and then it's like, right, okay, I know I can do that now. Some I run to, so some like ones weekly that I'll run for, like listen to that podcast for an hour, and then I'll run while I'm doing like that, or whatever the case
Yeah.
should be. It's then I think if we sort of say it's once a month, it comes out first of the month in terms of like saying,
Yeah.
right, it's out on the first of the month, start your month, we'll give you some like, and then we can use sort of bits of stuff in terms of motivation and reviewing the month and all the like the other stuff that we sort of we look at as well. But
Yeah.
I think if we sort of say first of the month with the we're releasing an episode, I'm not going to call it a
Yeah.
podcast, a webinar, or anything else. We release a set a,
I
something
don't know
between you
what
and
we'd
I.
call it. Yeah, I don't think it
Conversation.
really matters, does it?
No, no,
What we
no,
call
not
it
at
really,
all.
I think. Yeah, I agree. I think again, going back to our original sort of conversations about this, it were all about trying to build more of a modern broker community. And how do we do that? What platform do we do it on? I'm not entirely sure, but there's definitely a conversation or conversations to be had. I don't think we would struggle for topics. You know, if we were doing it once a month, there's 12 sessions there or 12 episodes. Genuinely don't think we'd have things to, we wouldn't run out of things to talk about.
No,
Uh,
definitely
I,
not.
I genuinely think within sort of self-employed advisors, brokers, wherever we're going to refer to them as, there's perhaps a bit of an isolation problem that they are on their own.
Yeah,
Um, and, yes, they might be part of a network, but sort of that feeling of being isolated. Where do I go to for support on different things? So it kind of ticks that. Speak to a lot of brokers who perhaps do feel like they're stranded on an island. Not just about checking into them regarding the performance and the productivity, but the well-being, how they're feeling. And then it's the more practical support that I think we can provide them with, not just pep talks, but real practical support. What does good look like? What works? Sharing of best practice, that sort of thing. So
definitely.
yeah, it may be doing it in that format would also allow us the opportunity of building this modern broker community a little
Hmm.
bit more under the sort of the banner of,
Yeah,
the Broker Foundry.
yeah.
So no, I'd definitely be up for that. Definitely.
And I think if we do go down the route of something like YouTube channel, like I've obviously got a YouTube channel set up already called the Broke Foundry. But if we went down that chat down there, people can leave the comments on there, people can leave the thoughts on there, people can leave any sort of thing, sort of what for guests or topics and things
Yeah,
like you say in terms of suggestions, because and I think that will sort of work massively. And I think to be fair, mate, it's quite strange sometimes how our brains are aligned, because I wrote down earlier I wrote three words. One is one word, the other is two words. But the first one was isolation. I honestly, mate, I wrote
really.
that down. Yeah, about to talk about isolation on the podcast. I know the podcast gone on a bit of a different, and we can talk about isolation on the Broker Foundry, absolutely. But I think that's a big thing. Is isolation is a big thing for broke, and in fairness, mate, it doesn't really matter where, even if you're at the top of there's quite a few business owners that I know that they've got a business, they've got two or three brokers they're working with, but there's only them at the top. There's only them. They're not in a
Yeah,
partnership. They're doing the
yeah.
decisions, they're the recruiting, they're the HR. So again, they feel isolated. So we can sort of talk about those things. And so that was one word that I wrote down. And then the other one, which I found comes up so much recently in conversations I'm having, which is in fact two words, which is devil's advocate. So I think,
All right.
given that you didn't know what we were going to say there, did you? I bet you didn't think I was going to
No,
say devil's advocate, did you? No.
no, no.
So and that comes up quite a bit in terms of conversations I'm having, because and it goes back to the loaded answers and being told what to do by people that benefits them. So the feedback that
yeah,
I've had about the webinar and about the reaching out after was that they felt that they could reach out to you and I, and we would play devil's advocate for them. And I know what devil's advocate what is. I did a
yeah.
bit of research, and I'm not going to share it on the podcast, but I thought, actually, where does devil's advocate come from? Catholic
I
saying,
thought it were
not
a film.
religious. Thought what?
I thought it were a film with Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino.
It is.
You'll
Yeah, I
have,
think it is
you'll
actually.
have to have a look at that. Good film. Yeah,
It is.
apparently Al Pacino's the devil. But anyway.
Well, funnily fair, I think I think the original version goes back to 15 something or other, and it's from the Catholic Church. If you've got any, if you want bored, then
Yeah,
yeah. But I think getting back on point, and I can see
yeah,
where
sorry.
our Broker
Yeah,
Foundry's
ran
conversations
out
are
of
going to
time.
go.
Yeah,
Um, going back, like my point was that I think it just is having that, and so the feedback was, I get back to, I don't know what I was saying now, that they felt that they could reach out to you and I, and we would give them, be able to play devil's advocate and just give
yeah,
them the ask the right questions, give the right prodding, not just go along with, oh yeah, you need to be doing that because it benefits me in any way. It's actually it's asking the questions that maybe not get asked, just, and then just being able to sort of like discuss that through with somebody who's looking to get in the industry or looking to change what they're currently doing in the industry, but
yeah,
getting the advice from somebody who has done it before.
yeah, yeah. Done it before, got the experience, and it doesn't really make a great deal of difference to them, uh, to the fact that they're just going to tell it as it is. This is a totally unencumbered opinion that I'm going to give you, which is for your benefit entirely. What you do with that information is up to you. And yeah, I get that, because sometimes you think, oh well, if I ask that person the question, they're going to give me a version that they want to give, as opposed to, just total openness and honesty.
Yeah,
And no, going back to the isolation thing again, something that I've had a couple of conversations with different people, and they might class themselves as lone wolves. One person operations, of which there's an awful lot in the industry. Very very successful operations, but they feel quite isolated, and they desperately want to be part of some kind of community, some kind of collaboration, and don't really know where to go. I know there's multiple different groups within Facebook, but that I think, I don't know, it just looks and feels a little bit faceless to me. Whereas there's definitely an opportunity for something to exist that feels like it's real life,
yeah, yeah.
in my opinion.
Definitely, and I think like yeah, I have my own opinions on those Facebook groups in terms of their motivation and a few other things as well. Which yeah, there's certain ones have the benefits. Absolutely, it's giving them that feeling like the broker's got that bit of community, but then you can it can be led in a different way, shall we say, than what the purpose of actually is about building a community for the brokers. So
And I think the
obviously,
difference is, Craig, whether this is a good or a bad thing, but we actually put our faces to this. You know, this is real life. This is real. Whereas perhaps sometimes Facebook isn't.
no,
It's sort of hidden behind, whatever. Whereas
yeah,
we're lifting the curtain on this and allowing everybody to see that the wizard is just a bloke with a microphone. So it's just an illusion, which, to be honest with you, the majority of things are, aren't they?
yeah, they are absolutely. Like I say, yeah, is that not part of the world anyway? So but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, true,
absolutely.
true.
But I think there's nothing wrong with booking that trend, mate, and just thinking about actually, and that's the good thing about it, isn't it? We can sort of see then what's not what we understand what what we do and how we help people and the support and stuff like that, and without the sort of um the biased. And I think that's sort of then with the Facebook groups, it's then we can sort of see that, and brokers can see that as well. I do know brokers that have been thrown off the Facebook groups just for calling out the bias, shall we say, and then all of a sudden, so it's not, is it really truly the brokers at heart? And I think there is that certainly need for some safe space where people can just feel as though they can reach out, and maybe, and how that looks, we don't like, with this will forever evolve, won't it?
It'll
It's look
evolve.
we
Yeah, yeah, it will
exactly
evolve. I
exactly
think if you're providing opinions on certain things verbally, it's easier to provide a context than it is if it's just written down. Um, so I think there's a
yeah,
value there definitely.
okay,
Um, no, I think we should do it. We might end up with a sponsor. You never know.
who knows,
Uh,
who knows, who
Yorkshire
knows.
tea or Starbucks, that'd be good. I'm having to pay £4 for a flat white these days, so let's get some sponsorship coming in.
Yeah, we could. I think that's not a bad idea. Getting some sponsorship. I'm not like
Yeah,
I'm.
British Steel. I don't think British Steel exist anymore,
No,
do
I
they?
don't know. No, no, I don't think
Uh,
it does. I think
no,
Sheffield still does exist in some sort. I went somewhere recently, miles away, and then like, for some random reason saw the Cutting Mate, and it had Sheffield on it. I thought, wow, that has travelled well.
yeah.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't think I'll
We'll
go.
aim
I don't
for
think I'll go to
Yorkshire
my
tea.
football club for sponsorship, mate. So I don't think they've. I think they've gone up my
I
words.
don't think we should. I weren't going to bring Sheffield Wednesday up, Craig. So, but we'd probably need another half an hour. And being a Rotherham United supporter, it's not that I'm reveling in Wednesday's current problems, but no, I'm fairly confident that you'll get sorted. I think Simon Jordan's put himself in frame.
I think
Um,
he's
but
doing the what's the is it the okey dokey? You put your left leg in,
oh,
your left
yeah,
leg
in
out, in
out, in
out, in
out.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, shake it all about. Yeah.
To be
Uh,
fair, mate, I knew that just came into my. I'm a bit worried that actually just came into my brain then at that moment. So, Jonathan, I think like
Brilliant.
thanks for coming. I think that yeah, I think that's sort of like absolutely perfect. I think that's sort of not quite what I had when I thought I'd get you back on the podcast to talking about it, but
Yeah,
to talk about the Broker Foundry. However, I think from the coming back on the podcast, I think it's been good to share with everybody what went on, the
yeah,
reasons why, not which people knew already, but and the sort of feedback after. But actually, I was quite live of how that evolved in terms of thinking, do you know what? Let's
yeah,
make it open to
yeah,
all. Let's not make it guarded. Let's make it, it is all about the
yeah.
brokers at the end of the day.
I were genuinely open or hoping, sorry, I was genuinely hoping that there'd be an opportunity for us to pick up the Broker Foundry. And I were looking forward to doing us to do another event. I think this conversation's been incredibly useful in that we've been able to sort of come up with an idea whereby it will exist in a slightly different format. And I think that'll be to everybody's benefit, ours and the people that are going to listen to it.
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
I'll
Absolutely.
see you on the next Broker Foundry.
You will. You will. Jonathan, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for agreeing
Cheers,
to
mate.
coming on. And it's been great to catch up. And
Yeah,
yeah, I'm not going to say we're going to see you on the other side on the Broker Foundry. So
yeah. All the best, mate. Thanks a lot.
cheers. Thanks for that, Jonathan. Thanks for agreeing to come back onto the podcast and talking about the webinar, and really more importantly, what the Broker Foundry looks at now moving forward, which looks like it's going to be more of a YouTube channel podcast based than the webinars, which just means it's going to be free and easier to access for everybody concerned, and easier for Jonathan and I to record as well, which is important. So yeah, and if you found today's episode useful, like as always, please don't forget to follow the podcast, leave a review, share it with somebody in your mortgage broker network that needs to hear the messages that Jonathan and I are talking about. And if you are thinking about becoming a self-employed mortgage broker or looking to set up your own brand and business, or you're looking to grow and scale your existing business, see my website, craigskelton.co.uk, or just send me a message and let's have a chat about how I can help you achieve your goals for the rest of 2025. And as always, please don't forget to run your own race.